An Ottawa sodomy parade was canceled after a sodomite Israeli genocide group decided to celebrate an ideology that would throw them off of buildings if they ever actually visited the Middle East. As maximum carnage continues to go elbows way down, the conservatives appear to gain approval and favor. From poisonous COVID shots to pool noodle Nazis, Canada is becoming a very, very silly place. Canada's like a habitual crack smoker, spiraling into self destruction, blaming everyone else for their problems. But like that person, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can begin the process of rebuilding. And we need to be about the process of rebuilding. It's August 28th. I'm Andrew DeBartolo. That's Matt Hallick. This is Liberty Dispatch.
Hello and welcome back to Liberty Dispatch, friends. It is great to be with you again on the Dispatch. Thank you for tuning in. We are so thankful for all of you who continue to support the show, because this is the place where we bring you conservative Canadian news and analysis from an unapologetically Christian perspective. Be sure to, if you like what we do, to subscribe, rate, review, to do what you can do to get more of our episodes out there. I've noticed we've been getting some good shares. Andrew, our episode on climate lockdowns got shared by our dear friend, Dr. Joseph Boot, and then Laura Clausen, John Speed. A bunch of people have been sharing out the interview that you just recently had with T. Russell Hunter of Abolitionist Rising. And it was a spicy interview full of hot takes. And it seems like people were edified by the frank nature of your discussion, Andrew. So appreciate that you guys are able to have such a wonderful conversation. And if you want to see all our full content, all the full behind the paywall interview aspects of the episodes, go over to ldcanada.substack.com. Check us out over there, and please think about becoming a paid subscriber, because it helps us continue to grow and continue to bring you news and analysis and interviews that you absolutely will not 100% get anywhere else. We are a one of one type show here in Canada. So if you like what we do, be sure to support what we do. And we really appreciate everybody who does do that, because we know the state of the Canadian economy. We've touched on it. We know that food cost is still accelerating. We know that everything costs a ton of money, and that money that you use to buy everything really doesn't mean as much as it used to. It's lost so much of its purchasing power. That's why everything is so expensive, because the purchasing power has been destroyed from our dollar. So we appreciate any of your dollars coming towards us and what we do, and we do not take that for granted. The show is made possible by those who support it. So thank you so very much. ldcanada.substack.com. Andrew, great to see you again, brother. Great shirt. Mm-hmm. I love that shirt. I've got it too. I'm rocking my bull Bitcoin today, but Christ is king. And it's
so funny story about this shirt, if I might. We in preparing to film I have my kind of carousel of shirts that I wear for filming. And last week I decided it's time to put them all through the wash. So we washed them all. So my wife set them aside. I set them aside on my dresser in my room. And then right as we were about to film, I realized that they were in my dresser. They were in my room still, and the twins are asleep in there. So I don't want to go and wake them up. And I was wearing some other like red shirt that's just dirty and gross. So I'm like, what am I going to wear for the show? So my wife has been wearing this shirt lately, just wearing it around like as a bedtime shirt. I said, well, we'll switch. You take my dirty red shirt. I'll take this one for the show. It'll look good. She said, you're funny.
Of parents of 5 kids.
Said, you're funny. It was a fun moment. So Yeah, it's been a good week. We're next week school starts, so we're back at it.
Yeah, man.
It's been just this evening. My three older kids and I made sure that they had their supplies and uniforms and books and bags all ready to go. So it's gonna get real very
Yeah,
soon.
fun
So we're excited
stuff.
for the new school year. Yeah.
Yeah, we just made it through the Biggest Story Bible by Kevin DeYoung for the second time. So for our
Hmm.
dinner devotionals, and we're started on the Kingdom of God series. I can't remember who puts it out, but they are beautiful books. I think it's from Truth for Life.
The red one and the blue one and
Yeah, and the parables and
that
stuff like that.
series.
You
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
have that?
We don't, but I've seen it before. It is really nice.
Yes, it is. It is. So it's
Our kids
good.
have moved up to the age where we're basically. So
Full
I don't know what
Bible.
we're gonna do with the younger kids. We've been
Yeah.
writing the text for a while. We
No,
went through Proverbs and went through Matthew.
when you're I think like when your oldest kids are at that age, then like everybody kind of gets the full dose, right? And
Mhm.
then you have to do the bedtime stories with the younger ones that maybe explain it a little bit more. I don't know how we got on that subject, but listen, everybody, liturgy, worship is how you build culture. And if you want to learn how to build culture in your house, worship the Lord and do it through routines and structure, and
Mhm.
teach your kids how to approach God in a worshipful state, and that will stick with them throughout their whole lives. And if cultus is at the heart of culture, as we always say, Andrew, that practice, liturgical practice, yes, even in the home, not just in the church on Sunday, is absolutely important. So there you go, Andrew. Try and jump off that into into the ad read, if you will.
Well, before that, I will say that I really enjoy the discussion that I had with Russell that we aired this last Saturday. This coming Saturday, we're airing an interview where I once again got to sit down with Mike Shooten from ARPA Canada and got an update from them. A lot has happened since we had him on the show, which was really only 5-6 weeks ago.
I mean,
But
closest back to
it's going
back
to be
interview I think we've ever done with anybody.
closest back to back interview ever. And so that'll be a good episode this Saturday, a good interview for you to be updated with what's going on, and a good discussion with Mike because we talked a lot about culture building and education and really the work that's ahead for us as Canadians. And one of the things we need to be mindful of is you mentioned the economy that's basically falling off a cliff and dying on the way down is how is it that we steward the resources that God has given us, and how do we be excellent with that which he's put in our care. And the reality is, despite Canada's rather unstable economy, the borders remain open, negatively impacting our labor market. Meanwhile, the once thriving real estate market is weakening significantly. Now is an opportune time to diversify your assets from overvalued real estate into more attractive investments. If you're considering selling your rental property and diversifying the proceeds, then you need to reach out to our friends at Rocklinc Investment Partners, Canada's premier Christian conservative money manager. They share your values and aim to help you navigate economic challenges. You give them a call at 905-631-5462 or email them info@rocklink.com. That's info@rocklink.com. So the lead story of the day has to do with the fact that Canada is in the midst of a war between various false gods. And all of these false gods ultimately have Satan as their origin. But that doesn't mean that the enemy of my enemy still can't be enemies. Doesn't mean that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The reality is that you can have people who attach themselves to some sort of demon who obviously oppose one another because while our God is a God of order, not chaos, Satan is a fallen angel who thrives in chaos. So the false god battle that we see right now is a little bit of an apex, right? For the last decade or so, it would have appeared that the gods of the rainbow cult were the most worshipped in Canada. Everything was geared toward appeasing the god of the rainbow cult. However, it appears a new god has risen to the top of the high places to be worshipped by the people of Canada, and that is the God of free Palestine. So this story, the first little bit, comes from the Post Millennial. Quote, Ottawa's Pride Parade was called off Sunday after a pro-Palestinian activist group blocked the route and refused to move, forcing organizers to shut down the event. The group, Queers for Palestine Ottawa, or Q4P, said in a press release that it halted the march with the permission of the parade's Grand Marshal, reports the CBC. Protesters gathered near Parliament Hill chanting, "This is what a village looks like," in reference to Capital Pride's 2025 theme, "We are a village." Q4P presented a list of demands to Capital Pride, including that the organization host a boycott, divestment, and sanctions town hall and adopt a permanent culture and academic boycott of Israel. The group also called for Mayor Mark Sutcliffe and other elected officials to apologize for boycotting Capital Pride in 2024 and to stand with us and all oppressed peoples, including Palestinians. In its press release, Q4P said, "We are in the parade today to affirm very clearly that our pride is not for sale and that the 2S LGBTQIA plus communities will not accept sponsors and elected officials dictating what we stand for, how we celebrate ourselves, and how we claim our space." Close quote. That sounds like the most awful village anyone would want to live in.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
one that is inhabited by the Queers for Palestine.
literally becoming the village people. But I love like what a like.
Not even people. The village organisms. They're not even people. What if some of them identify? What if
Yes.
they're furries and animal
Are you
kin? The village,
dehumanizing them,
yeah.
Andrew?
The village. They're doing it themselves. They're the village organisms.
Anyways, it to me, like, the glaring inconsistency here is just like it's plain as the nose is on my face, right? Because we're talking about, they called themselves the oppressed peoples, right? They're angry at Mayor, like, radical left wing Mayor Sutcliffe of Ottawa, the Swamp City, because he's not adequately standing with oppressed peoples, right? And that's why they identify with the Palestinians, because they have this Marxist oppressed worldview, this critical framework that they look at all of society through. Um, while also talking about, because this has been an existential crisis for the LGBTQ community since their ideology has reached its ascendancy, is many of those radical lefties are worried that they've sold out. Right? You know, they used to be fighting for the cause of their own human rights, to stand up against the evil oppressors. And now they're being flooded with federal dollars, municipal dollars, provincial dollars, and
Yeah,
sponsorships
so
from
so
literally.
oppressed that they get a parade in the nation's capital, and so oppressed that they're able to even stop said parade. Like, the
Yes.
levels of being not oppressed are
Yes.
astounding.
Yes. And it was so oppressed. Literally, our prime minister declared not only June as Pride Month, but the entirety of the summer as Pride season, which we actually see evidence in the fact that Ottawa's parade isn't in June.
Mhm.
It's at the end of or middle of August, right? those are separated by, so that's why, and Vancouver deliberately took the Pride Parade out of June to make it in July, I believe, as well, so that Pride festivities are in the face of Canadians throughout the nation, throughout all of summer. They've hijacked
Mhm.
it, the entirety of it, and that's how oppressed they are. So I just
Right.
wanted to point that out, because I mean that's the clown world that we're inhabiting, that these people are so oppressed that they're actually worried about selling out because of all the appeasement that they get from the private public partnerships that we have in Canada. So they're not oppressed. That's crazy. And they're stupid Marxists. Moving on. Here is what the group posted on its Instagram. If you were wondering, I'm sure you don't follow them, but we follow the news, so you don't have to follow these dumbos. But anyways, today in Ottawa, unceded, unsurrendered Algonquin land. There you go. There's the post-colonial theory. Queers for Palestine, Ottawa, with full support from Grand Marshal Patience Plush. I'm sure that's a drag star. Andrew, is that
That's
a
not
drag
even
star?
okay. We need to hold on.
This has to
Oh,
be
John, we just
one of the most
we need to
asinine
yeah,
sentences in the world.
we need to just take a breath for a minute here. And this is not the Babylon Bee here. This is not an SNL skit from the 90s. This is not a cartoon, but it is a cartoon. But that sentence you just read is a real sentence that they put out on their Instagram, and I'm sure that they were so filled up with purple-haired vigor when they put that. Full support from Grand Marshal Patience Plush. That's not even real. That's a video game character. That's like
Yeah.
that's we now live in a video game or a cartoon.
Yes. Okay. Let's take this serious. This is news. We are a serious news
Yeah.
broadcast
Yeah.
show. We invited.
We need to be plush in our patience.
Yes.
We need to have patience and be plush.
Ample.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Continue.
Okay. Continue. So, Patience Plush, this cartoon character, invited Queers for Palestine, Q4P, if you want to be in on the acronym, to participate with our contingent of hundreds to march at the front with them, halted the Capitol parade with full. That is a hard to read sentence, especially since it's filled with characters. So essentially, they were invited to the parade to march with them at the front of the parade, but I guess, Andrew, they halted the parade instead of marching in the parade.
Yeah, they said, "Hey, Patience, can we stop the parade?" And Patience probably said,
Well, I'm full of patience.
Sure thing, honey." Something like that.
Dude,
Something like that.
that was too good. That's creepy. That's creepy.
Well, you know I'm good with accents.
I know. But ugh. Okay, anyways, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to get through this. This village claimed that space to say loud and clear that we have fought too hard to be bullied into silence by Zionists and genocide supporting politicians. We danced and sang and chanted, and we presented our demands, as good Marxists do, for capital pride to be brave, public, and transparent to the community about the commitments they have made and about their pro-Palestine values. Palestinian, I think they're not very good at writing. Anyways, and for Mayor Mark Sutcliffe to come and apologize to the community for boycotting Pride last year due to its pro-Palestine stance, and to pledge his support to our community and to all oppressed peoples, including Palestinians. So come lick our boots, Mark Sutcliffe, you jerk, is essentially what their demand was. And until he did that, I guess the gays couldn't have their day in the sun, marching across the streets as people who are most certainly not oppressed in Canada, not even a little bit, but have uber rights.
It's curious how this is playing out, because I remember 2 years ago when the Million March for Children event happened, and it appeared as if the gods of the rainbow cult were going to win over the gods of free Palestine. I remember that one teacher that told Muhammad, basically, you should leave our country if you don't support our values. Like, I thought that was going to be the play. But things like this make me think, well, the more and more you have this Palestinian anti-Israel rhetoric, the more and more you also have the growing of the woke right and their very anti-Semitic posture. I wonder if the gods of the demon Allah will win over the gods of the sodomite death cult. We'll see. I'm curious to see how it plays out. It's like a good match of tug of war. We had an event at our church
Mm-hmm.
recently called the men's showdown. Very, very binary, very patriarchal, and basically a bunch of men just compete in these different competitions: physical, mental, ability to build and construct and strategize, stuff like that. And the final event is the tug of war. And there was one match in particular was going back and forth, and we didn't know who was going to win. That's what I feel like's happening right now. I feel that the Free Palestine gods and the Rainbow Death Cult gods are really duking it out, and I don't know. I don't know who's going to win the day. I
Yeah.
really don't know.
Well,
I don't think I don't know how I put my money on.
Andrew, interestingly enough, like I know, Islamic Muslim jurisdictions and their Sharia law aside, if you know the history of Islam, it is kind of a sodomite death cult. So,
Mhm.
just saying.
But hold on. That's only with boys though.
Yes,
Yeah. So there's
pederasty.
so
That's
yeah.
right.
So there's a little bit of a difference where it's exclusively with boys
Although
because
I think it's typically with
you
boys,
can't
but
unvirginize girls.
in
The
in
primarily.
in I just finished reading Raymond Ibrahim's Sword and the Scimitar, and I think they weren't too discriminate when it came to their enemy infidels, the
Oh yeah,
kafirs, the
yeah,
unbelievers. They're
yeah,
allowed to do whatever they want with whomever they
yeah.
want in that
I'm
circumstance.
thinking within and among their own, because you cannot compromise the virginity of women, because that would be a huge kerfuffle.
Yes,
You allow these men to have their way with little boys. So yeah, but they're probably more similar than they are different. But
Mhm.
it is a curious back and forth to see who will ultimately win the favor of the state and of the culture. We'll see.
Exactly.
Inflation through the roof.
Food costs went up 10.6% in February.
Censorship of dissident voices, freezing of bank accounts.
Justin Trudeau invoking emergency powers against the truckers. Banks can now freeze their personal accounts, the accounts of anyone linked to the Freedom Convoy.
Digital surveillance and communism spreading.
What do we want?
Basic income!
With the basic income, I felt a sense of security because I didn't have to worry about not going hungry, and I didn't have to worry about being kicked out of my apartment.
The government is on the verge of bankruptcy, and they're coming for your money.
Canada's federal debt increasing in real time, now surpassing $1.2 trillion. This debt is draining taxpayer dollars, with interest alone costing $54 billion this year.
It's time to break free and start saving in money they can't take from you. Since 2013, the folks at Bull Bitcoin have one mission: destroy central banking. Bull Bitcoin is the most trusted Bitcoin company in Canada. They empower you to buy, sell, and pay bills with Bitcoin. They are 100% non-custodial, which means that you always maintain full control over your Bitcoin, allowing you to reclaim your financial sovereignty and secure your wealth for the future. Their customer support will assist you throughout the whole process, helping you get your hands on the hardest money ever created. Escape their financial gulag, click on the link below, and start buying Bitcoin today.
Yeah. Hey, just a quick note for everybody. Canadian Taxpayer Foundation, they are featured in that ad. Or Federation. Is it Federation or Foundation? I think it's Federation.
Yeah.
Canadian Taxpayer Federation. We interviewed Chris Sims, the lady in the witch costume, and it was a great interview that I had with her. And if you want the full interview, which definitely gets spicy, and it talks a lot about taxes in Canada, be sure to go over to ldcanada.substack.com and check it out over there. Become a paid subscriber. You will not regret it for sure. So ldcanada.substack.com. Head over there. Alrighty.
So, according to a new Abacus poll, approval for the Conservative Party and Pierre Poilievre is increasing, and then approval for Mark's commie is decreasing. Also, apparently, in the eyes of Canadians, Trump insanity has kind of faded, especially because the cost of living in Canada is front and center, and expenses being what they are. People are less concerned with whatever Trump is doing and thinking more, hey, is Carney at the helm of the ship really good for us? I mean, the answer is no, but Canadians are more and more waking up to this. So this is right from Abacus website. Quote, just over a third of Canadians, it's 35%, believe the country is headed in the right direction, essentially unchanged from early August. Meanwhile, 47% say things are on the wrong track. Views of the global outlook, 14% in the right direction, and of the United States, 13% remain bleak, driven by persistent global uncertainty and lingering wariness toward U.S. leadership. The rising cost of living continues to dominate the political conversation, chosen by 60% of Canadians as one of their top three concerns. The broader economy follows at 36%, housing at 35%. Healthcare ranks fourth at 33%. Donald Trump's influence as a political issue appears to be diminishing. Mentioned by 38% this wave and down from 44% earlier in the summer, Trump now sits behind cost of living and is tied with the economy in salience. While still significant, his shadow is receding slightly, likely reflecting both Canadian fatigue and a slight cooling in U.S. news coverage. Close quote. So a couple episodes we talked about, it looks like, hey, Poilievre wins? Is a conservatism growing, or they gaining support? And this poll seems to also affirm that, yes, it seems that more people are warming up to the Conservative Party and cooling off with regard to Carney and the Liberals.
Yeah, because I mean, the issue that apparently won the day for the election was a total fabricated media narrative that favored the Liberal Party that had just given us a decade of awful governance.
The lost decade.
We should also remind people this was a narrative that the government, the Liberal government, used taxpayer money to test without the knowledge of anybody prior to the election, right?
Right.
The bonuses of being the party in power. So they workshopped it. It worked because Canadians are unfortunately stupid enough that the Kamala play actually worked on us in Canada. But it's taken just over 100 days, Andrew. And people are like, oh yeah, things are still terrible. And
not still terrible. Worse. They're worse.
Yeah, exactly. And the guy who apparently had the plans, well, he's literally done nothing.
Yeah, he's elbows down,
at all.
Face down in the dirt.
It's crazy. I think we said it again last week, but the fact that within well over 100 days now, I think they're 4 months in, and they've virtually done nothing. This is when you're giving a new mandate as a government, especially in light of the failure of your same party over the last decade. You'd imagine they're running through the door. They're trying to prove we're not like the old guys. We're going to do things different. And they just haven't done anything. And that's why I think you're seeing the poll numbers just drastically fall. The grace period's ending. And it might also be, Andrew, as you've mentioned, because Mark Carney's elbows up, which is a horrible hockey reference. That's like a penalty in hockey. I mean, it's so stupid. Anyways, his elbow up campaign is a joke. It was a joke. And it turns out he was just joking because he's had a full elbow amputation. Because it turns out that he has now come out just to even get a conversation, not even to get, a good deal with Donald Trump. He's come out and he's dropped the vast majority of what we were told, Andrew, were necessary retaliatory tariffs on Donald Trump. This is from the BBC News. Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, said on Friday that his country will drop some of its billions of dollars in retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, though it will keep levies on cars and steel and aluminum. It comes a day after he and President Donald Trump spoke over the phone for the first time since the two countries missed a self-imposed deadline to reach a trade agreement. Canada had placed a 25% levy on about $30 billion. That's, for the BBC audience, 16 billion pounds, which is, shows you how bad our money is.
Yeah, our dollar's garbage. Our dollar's garbage.
And that's 21.7 billion US dollars worth of US goods on an array of products, including orange juice and washing machines. So there you have it. The tax hike was in retaliation to US tariffs on Canada, which as of August, are valued at 35% on all goods not compliant with the country's existing free trade deal. Carney said Canada will now match the US by, get this, Andrew, because this is a very important part that I want everybody to hear. Carney said Canada will now match the US by ending its tariffs on goods compliant with the US, Mexico, Canada free trade agreement, which is either called CUSMA or USMCA, depending on whether you want to lead with Canada or the US. So we were kind of sure, the tariff war started by Trump, but then we were adding tariffs on stuff with even within CUSMA, going a step farther than even the United States of America, which, thanks through some intrepid reporting and interviews from independent journalists like Manitoba's own Jasmine Lane, talking to the ambassador from the United States to Canada, it turns out that was a big deal for the Americans not even wanting to show up at the table. Because if you're not going to respect CUSMA like we are, we're not even going to come to the table. And that was really putting in jeopardy the renegotiation. So anyways, he said that, this is Carney, said that it would reestablish free trade for the vast majority, that's his words, of goods that move between the two countries. The decision will go in effect on Labor Day. That's September the 1st, according to Maximum Carnage. There you go, Andrew. We've gone full elbows down. And somehow the legacy media is spinning it. This is somehow a masterstroke by Mark Carney. Although, to be fair, there have been a few people that are like, man, we ran interference for you. We got on board with the elbows up campaign. What's going on here? So it'll be interesting to see how liberals respond.
You got what you wanted, Canada. You got what you wanted. You got what you voted for. You got what you deserved, and now now this is, he who sows the wind shall reap the whirlwind. And this is, and I think this is going to be bad for what we deserve and what we wanted.
This is going to be bad for the Liberals and good for the NDP, I think, because a lot of the more radical lefties, they have the Trump deranged syndrome. So, they're the virulent, go elbows up, fight that orange man bad. He's a evil person type of kind of a mindset. And then when you add that to ongoing labor disputes with Canada Post and Air Canada, I think a lot of the people who migrated from the NDP in hopes of bolstering the Liberals to a victory over the Conservatives, the Liberals are more and more looking like sellouts, and they're going to queers for Palestine. this whole this alliance that they made for the last election, I do believe. So anyways, that's that.
Now is not the time to surrender or retreat. Now is the time to build. It's not time to simply complain. It's time to get to work. It's time for people who share the values that built this nation to be open about them, to celebrate them, and to defend them. Our goal at Resistance Coffee has always been bigger than coffee. We want to fill the cup of every patriot in this land. We want to fuel a resistance of ordinary Canadians with extraordinary values. We want to encourage and inspire people who feel like they've lost their home to take it back. Now is the time to build. Fuel up and let's go.
Man, we have great partners. I'm so
that's
stoked.
really the elbows up campaign. That's the real elbows up campaign. But it's not really elbows up, but it's like,
no, that's just like a straight up
grinders on
hip check, perfectly executed, no penalty on the play, highlight reel, hit of the year type stuff.
But hip check like a modern day hip check, or like a 1994 Darius Kasparaitis.
Oh no, 1994.
Just above the knees, sending Cam Neely into the sky, ending his career kind of hip check.
No, I think like 1994.
Like a Rock'em Sock'em 5.
Yeah.
Kind of let's go hip check with techno music.
That's Scott Stevens on Paul Correa, Yeah. Although
if you get these
maybe
references,
that was elbows up. I don't know about that one.
Well, no, that was Scott Stevens on Eric Lindros. That's the elbows.
Man, Scott Stevens was a tank.
Yeah.
Hockey's good. Anyways,
this is what it means to be Canadian, folks.
Yeah.
This is what we talk about. Rock'em Sock'em videos. So if you're
hold on, Andrew, I do have to say,
I still have mine on VHS, by the way,
dude.
I have Rock'em Sock'em 5, 6, 7, and 8 on VHS. They hold up.
Like Carney set a precedent with the last election with like politicians who are like clearly know very little about hockey, making hockey analogies most of the time, which do not apply to the game. Like you can tell that it's so forced. They're trying to do this because they think it plays well with Canadians, because apparently we're mindless idiots who just like, if you say hockey, everything else is gone. Like
Tim Hortons, Tim Hortons. That's what they think.
But it's so cringe. We live in a cringy country. Like Canada is cringe. That might be the title for this episode. Canada is cringe.
In the midst of that, if you're a rational person in the midst of this madness, here's what a rational person might say. No one's still taking those toxic COVID mRNA experimental gene therapy injections, are they? Like, if you're rational, that's a question you would ask. Well, yes, not only are they doing just that, Health Canada is still approving of them in ever-increasing measure. So this is from CTV News. Quote, Health Canada has authorized updated COVID-19 vaccines by Pfizer and BioNTech and by Moderna for use this respiratory virus season. Moderna says it will manufacture vaccine doses for the Canadian market in its new facility in Laval, Quebec, and syringes will be filled in Cambridge, Ontario. News releases from both Pfizer and Moderna say the new mRNA shots will target the LP.8.1 variant, a descendant of Omicron that the World Health Organization was monitoring earlier this year. Yeah.
Oh man.
You have to give them numbers. Yeah. So both Pfizer's vaccine called, I think it's Comirnaty, and Moderna shot called Spikevax are approved for adults and children 6 months of age and older. If you give your 6-month-old a COVID shot, I don't know if you should be allowed to have your kids. The provinces and territories are responsible for ordering COVID-19 vaccines and deciding who will get them free of charge. Okay, here's where it gets even more cuckoo. If you didn't think this was silly enough. The National Advisory Committee on Immunization recommends seniors, residents of long-term care homes, people who are immunocompromised, healthcare workers, and people at risk of severe COVID-19 illness get vaccinated. It recommends 2 doses of the vaccine per year for people 80 years of age and older, long-term care residents, and people 6 months of age and older who are moderately to severely immunocompromised. The advisory committee recommends 1 shot per year for people between 65 and 79 years of age, healthcare workers, and people at risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19. NACI says those considered at higher risk include those, here we go, with underlying medical conditions. Okay. People who are pregnant. Nope. That's murder. People from First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities and members of racialized communities, close quote. So apparently
They want to poison the most vulnerable.
Natives and non-white people are at super high risk, and so are pregnant women. That's all baloney. That's all a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Good for you, Andrew, to stay on top of this, because, I mean, I think a lot of us have checked out on this, but it's important because it just shows you how cringe Canada is. So finally, this comes to us. Vancouver parents have been blocked from teaching their own children to swim in pools. Yes, we are at that point in the downfall of Canada. You cannot teach your kids to swim. This is from the Vancouver Sun.
The rationale is great, by the way. The rationale for it. The rationale is, it's like watching The Princess Bride, right? It's Princess Bride level rationale.
Man,
it's the same kind of.
It's gone. It's gone,
BC
man. How
really
does anybody
is,
live in BC?
But Ontario's worse. But BC's bad, but Ontario's worse.
Yeah,
Ontario's worse. BC's close. BC's really trying their best to be worse than Ontario. Ontario's the worst.
Anyways, let's get into the story from the Vancouver Sun. When Haley Arthur took her 7-year-old daughter Zoe to the Kensington Community Center pool in East Vancouver last month, the pair were eager to get in the water. Arthur, 35, wanted Zoe, whom she describes as a non-swimmer, to feel more confident before starting swim camp there. For about 20 minutes, the two practiced floats and glides in the shallow end. Then Arthur says a lifeguard told her she couldn't continue. She said it looked too much like a lesson and that I can't teach during public swim, said Arthur, a former lifeguard. I was confused. I can't teach my own daughter how to swim at a public pool. Arthur said the lifeguard threatened to ask her to leave if she persisted in teaching her daughter. The encounter left Arthur unsettled, obviously, and Zoe asking why she couldn't learn from her mom. Quote, my daughter didn't want to go back to the pool. No kidding, the mother said. The incident reflects a growing frustration amongst Vancouver parents who say enforcement of vague city policy has prevented them from teaching their own children to swim, even as demand for lessons far outstrips supply. That is true across Canada. Post Media has spoken with several families who say they have faced similar enforcement of the city's swim lesson policy. Quote, if the only way our kids can learn to swim is through paid city lessons and there aren't enough lifeguards to teach them, many children won't learn. And that's a scary situation, said Arthur. In a statement, the Vancouver Park Board said, quote, parents are welcome to support and guide their children at pools. However, organized and structured private swim instruction, including formal lessons, is not permitted unless it's provided by authorized aquatic staff or through an improved private business. So if you're going to teach your kid to swim, just make sure it's disorganized.
Yeah. This
Don't
epitomizes the managerial nanny state.
Yes.
Right?
this is the bureaucracy.
This story is so perfect. You listen, you can't do it yourself. We need to do it for you. You can't unless it's by an authorized aquatic staff, only an expert.
Which is probably like an 18-year-old working their summer job,
Yeah. So that's we can do that dangerous stuff. You have to trust us. You don't want your daughter dying, do you?
Yeah.
So let us do it for you.
And I think Arthur gets to she makes a good point here, right? She says, so we're in a public facility that my taxpayer dollars go to. We're in an open swim in instruction. It's free time. And I can't teach my daughter with a public facility that I have access to because my tax money goes there, unless if I pay more money to that same, public facility
for private lessons that
for
are unavailable.
Private lessons, because that's the only way you can have structured swim time. That's absurd. As it says, she's a former lifeguard too. I mean, she has not that should matter, but is parents should be free to teach their kids to swim using the public pool that their taxpayer money funds. End of story. This is, like you said, the absurdity of Clown World, of the nanny state, and this is uber cringe.
We're not a serious nation.
No,
we're not a serious nation. Especially
Andrew, you just look at the things that are being enforced in our nation, right? I think this is definitely my thought. I think 2 episodes ago now, 1 or 2 episodes, I think it's 2 episodes, we covered some of the serious crimes. We're talking rape, we're talking vehicular manslaughter, violent assaults, murders that judges and law enforcement are just winking and nodding at.
Yeah.
In Canada, especially if you're from a racialized, that's their language, community, right? We're just waving our hands over some of the most heinous crimes in our nation. Canada's violent crimes against person and property is reaching record levels across our nation. And it's not being punished adequately. The things that are being punished are walking in the woods, are teaching your kids how to swim in a public pool, are even going to public spaces like parks, right? In BC, that one park is now going to be shut down for the month of September, which would make it 68 days that the park is only Aboriginals only, right? These are the sorts of things that are being policed by the state, by the managerial nanny state. But actual violent crime goes unpunished. I mean, that is the absurdity of it all. And that's why so many just normal Canadian citizens are so unbelievably frustrated with the system. Because it doesn't take people like us who are, we're thinking about this stuff. We're in the news. We're in Christian ministry. We're teachers. We're leaders. It doesn't take us nerds to be on this stuff. that
Right.
Canadians are waking up to the dystopic reality of Canada. And you know, I would love for us to learn the lesson that we have to learn before everything comes crashing down. As you said in the opener, I hope it's not like the cessation of terminal velocity through hitting the ground that does that in Canada. I wish we could learn the lesson, deploy the parachute, but it doesn't seem like that's the course we're headed on.
Well,
Andrew.
if it's Canada, the parachute was probably put together by some federal
Blind,
employee, which means
black
it's not going to deploy.
Aboriginal woman.
It's not going to deploy. So
Ah,
we're a silly nation. We're a silly cartoon nation, and as I think about the ad from Resistance Coffee, and we continue to say that despite that, now's not the time to throw our hands up and in frustration and leave, but now's the time to build. We have an opportunity to build and to fight and to engage. And like I said in the lead-in, that eventually the thing collapses, but that's okay, because the thing collapsing means that now it leaves room. Like, you can't, if you have an old building that's condemned and decrepit and unlivable, but you want to, in its place, erect a home where people can live and flourish, the thing's got to come down first. So even though, that's our own home, that's our old building, there's a sadness about the thing coming down. The thing coming down is what makes the way for the new thing to be built up, which is the wonderful thing we need to be concerning ourselves with, is not holding on to Canada of yesteryear, but considering that if this thing comes down, it clears the way for us and our kids and grandkids to build something beautiful. And I'm here for it.
Yeah. So, Andrew, here's a question. We didn't talk about this, not scripted at all. The Ezra Institute just put out a podcast called The Politics of Civil War. Given the increasing fraught relationship between plenty of communities in the United Kingdoms, they seem to be, the temperature is boiling in Britain. What do you think I maybe I hesitate to ask this now that I kind of started, but what does that look like? What is the frat like? Do you think that that's a very real possibility? And what would that look like in Canada?
I'm not actually concerned about civil war in Canada for one reason. Lefties don't have guns the same way that conservatives do. I'm not actually worried about civil war at all. It's not like the States. This is what I chatted about with Russell Hunter and I. We brought this up. In the States, everyone has guns.
Yeah.
Trannies have pink guns with rainbows. They have pink ARs with rainbows on them.
Yeah, and apparently they use them to shoot up Catholic schools.
In Canada, however, it's all the conservatives that have the guns. So I'm not really concerned about civil war in Canada. I'd be more concerned about civil war in the United States, where everyone has guns, or in the UK, where law-abiding citizens don't have guns and the criminals do. But in Canada, if there's a civil war between the progressives and real conservatives, we got all the guns. I'm not really worried, which is why they're trying to take them away.
Yes.
Which is why we need to fight against them taking our guns away.
Yeah.
But I'm not really concerned about civil war, because if 5 goons show up at my door with a baseball bat, I'm just going to introduce them to old Beulah and we're going to be good.
Yeah. Well, no. And I just, I thought, I'd get your insight on it. 'Cause I'll link in the description some stuff people can look at on this. David Betts, I think he's King's College or something like that in the UK. He's done some stuff on kind of the anatomy, like the ingredients for civil war. And it's just something that's really interesting. Because I think you see a lot of those elements already, right?
For sure.
And and this is part of this is part of what identitarian identity politics
Right.
is supposed to do. This is the Marxist playbook, right? Divide and conquer, fracturing a society and the core of the values that it holds demoralizes people. And then it creates societal chaos. It creates tribalism and factionalism. And then it leads to these situations that are very hard to reverse when they start, right? Like these situations are very hard to reverse when they start. And now, in my mind, I agree with you. I don't think civil war is going to come to Canada. But my concern is it might happen in Britain. And it might happen... No, it's probably going to happen in Britain. If I'm being honest, things that are horrible over there.
Yeah, it's ramping up.
It's ramping up. Like, it's at a fever pitch. Like, everybody knows it. Everybody feels it. It's crazy. But my concern is, if something happens over there, that's going to be used as the predicate for all sorts of political machinations.
Sure.
Is especially like governments like the Carney government, who's already tried to put online harms. Like, all the leftists are going to use anything that happens in that sort of situation as a means by which they can seize ultimate power for themselves. And that's kind of how the Marxist, there's not going to be a October Revolution or anything, I don't think, in Canada because of what you've mentioned. But I do think I see a real potential of leftists in Canada seizing on a geopolitical situation that happens to then just cram down for the safety and well-being of Canadian society.
Yeah.
A total full-on communist, dystopia.
Which we saw 5 years ago.
Yes.
And we're seeing shades of it. We're seeing shades of it in the East Coast right now.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
With the climate lockdowns. So yeah.
No, exactly. So
anyways, it's all about the pretext, right?
Oh, 100%. And I really do think, like, Canada's not on the bleeding edge. We're never on the bleeding edge. We're probably going to be reacting to these things. So anyways, that was just a little bit of bonus content for you all on the potential of civil war or what that would look like in Canada. But what is clear, Andrew, from our last program to this program, that Canada is clown world, and we're not a serious nation, as you said. We're full on cringe. And if we want that to change, because I think most conservative Canadians really want that to change. Like, conservatives in Canada don't hate Canada as a nation. They hate the way things are going. They hate the last decade of a failed liberal leadership and the overall trajectory over the last, 60 years plus. But they don't hate Canada.
No.
They love Canada, just as our friends at Resistance Coffee have pointed out. And it's true patriots that have to push back against clown world and continue to build those communities that could withstand tyrannical government overreach, or could build from the ashes should we head that direction. So keep building, keep fighting, and keep doing so on the word of God. Until next time, everybody, Galatians 5:1. God bless you all. Take care.
Liberty Dispatch has been brought to you by SDG Media. If you want to stay in touch with us and all things Liberty Dispatch, join our email list, or support the show, head over to ldcanada.substack.com.